Hi everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Hannah Mollison, I'm Sales Director at Workwell Outsourcing. Today I am joined by the lovely Hannah Giles, who is here to discuss everything pay and bill. We're going to go right back to basics. We want this to be an educational resource for recruitment agencies. If you don't know much about Workwell, Workwell are the biggest service provider to recruitment companies within the UK. Not only do we service recruitment companies within the UK, we work with recruitment companies that are placing workers overseas with things such as EOR. And from an outsourcing perspective, we help agencies with things such as pay and bill, which we're also going to be discussing today, funding, accountancy, financial reporting, you name it. We essentially have a service relating to anything back office for a recruitment company. So Hannah, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Hannah has been working in pay and bill for over 10 years now, is it?
Yes, very nearly 10 years, yes.
Yeah, and has worked with hundreds of agencies throughout that time.
Yes.
So it's fair to say that you know pay and bill inside out.
Yes, I'd like to hope so.
Yeah. Shall we dive right in then?
Yes.
And I think it might seem like a self-explanatory question, but I mean, we've dealt with agencies that have been doing pay and bill manually for 30 years. So first of all, what is pay and bill?
It's a really good question to start off with because so many people out there do not know about pay and bill. Mm-hmm. It's a process that is run parallel alongside one another. Mm-hmm. The payrolling element is processing payments for all different types of workers, following the legislations, pensions, and making the payments to the workers. And the invoicing is raising the billing to the end client for the work completed by the workers at the agencies.
Okay. And normally when you go through a pay and bill process, what do you do first? Do you do the payment side of it or do the billing first side of it?
So we always process the payment side first because it's a lot easier to capture any issues with timesheets, payments, etc. It's a lot more of a professional approach because then your billing has not gone out to the end client. You're not having to then unpick a scenario that is not needed to go to the end client. It's just a lot more of a professional view rather than having to redo submissions, payroll. So we always start with payroll first, and we actually get our clients to validate their payrolls. Mm-hmm. So that also stops any issues.
Yeah. Okay. And in your experience of working with agencies, do you have agencies come to you for advice on their pay and bill process that are maybe doing it the wrong way round?
Yes, absolutely. We are not just there to process payroll and billing. We are there to help businesses implement better processes with the infrastructure within their business.
Yeah. And do you come across many agencies that are still doing the process manually? And what does that look like if they're doing it manually?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many businesses out there that still process payroll and billing manually, mm-hmm. From even just Excel spreadsheets, Word documents for invoicing, using a really, really basics, even down to like a really basic CRM, and then manually making payments from bank accounts.
Yeah. And I suppose if they're doing it manually via an Excel spreadsheet, for example, the whole process is open to human error.
Yeah, human error, time, and efficiency.
Yeah. And on average, how much longer do you think that process takes if they're doing it manually compared to if they're either utilising the system or if they outsource it? Obviously, it's taking them no time. But
I'd say probably double the time, because if you're doing it manually, you're then having to recheck that, and someone else will probably have to recheck that because of the human error that's involved in that process.
Yeah, definitely. I know from my experience, I come across agencies and they're utilising many different systems. Mm-hmm. And I mean, our advice to agencies is always the CRM should be your first point of data entry when it comes to any process, and that data should flow through into the back office systems. If an agency is using multiple systems to complete pay and bill, what does that look like? And how much more time consuming could that be for agencies?
So nowadays we're coming across a lot of agencies who are doing what you said, Hannah. They are using many different softwares as a part of their weekly, monthly process. a CRM or a timesheet portal to a PAYE HMRC regulated back-end software to then an accounts package. And then, so the time that entails to then collate all of that information from all different softwares, you're going to be paying your accountant more money. You're going to be doing a lot more because you're having to duplicate the data entry. It's such a long-winded way of processing payroll and billing when you could have a completely streamlined process of integration. The CRM, we always say to people, it's your baby, it's your Bible, it's where absolutely everything is. So to then have a system to follow off of that
starting point,
is where you should aspire to be as a business, rather than paying for multiple subscriptions that you don't need.
I think the other thing as well, which is so important for agencies, is the fact that if all of these systems aren't streamlined and integrating well with each other, and the pay and bill process is not smooth, effectively it affects their bottom line, doesn't it? And their financial reporting.
Yes. So financial reporting is so important for a business, and just having a system that can gather all of that information into one reporting, it's a saving grace, rather than having to merge details from different systems. The final reporting is so important. And also legislations as well. So legislations, keeping on top of the new legislations, old legislations, having software that will do that for you is a blessing for your memory.
Of course. And also, again, it comes down to human error. If there's a legislation change, if you're using a system, whether you're outsourcing pay and bill as a whole, or if you're utilising a pay and bill system, that system should be or updated to reflect the legislation changes. So you are not open to error, and there can be no human error.
It's not humanly possible to remember everything out there in regards to payroll and billing.
And so for agencies that you have experienced, if they are doing something manually, or they are doing this process manually, should I say, is it much work, and is it much of a process for them to move on to a pay and bill system or to outsource it? And what does that look like for an agency? Because I do think people don't like change, and as much as change is so important in order for any business to progress, if you don't want to stand still, you have to be open to change. And I mean, my experience with stuff like this is that you do get staff that aren't open to this change, and they don't like change, and it's getting buy-in from them that it's the best option for their business. And obviously we have a very consultative approach when we're speaking of agencies, don't we? But what does the process look like, and is there much work involved for agencies?
I think agencies think there is a lot more work that is involved in the transitional process than there actually is. In a nutshell, how I say to people that they should approach the transitional process is explore your options, have demonstrations of platforms, get your team involved in having a look at the demonstrations that companies can provide for you. Your team are the biggest structure to your business. They should have involvement in that whole transitional process. So have several demonstrations of platforms and discussions with your team on databases that they have seen. Cost and budget is a big thing. Always have a cost in mind, always have a budget for the year, and a forecast as well. So you forecast what you're going to spend and turn over within the business to where you want to aspire to be in, say, 5 years' time. So you have a roadmap of the costing for where you want to go. Project plan, should always have a project plan in place as a business internally, and an implementation plan is a key ingredient to the transitional process. An implementation plan for all parties involved, all clear for everybody to see, and signed off and agreed on the dotted line before you proceed.
And with any of our customers, we obviously put a project plan together for them, so they can see milestones, what's going to be done and when, what they can expect from the system as the process of getting them live takes place. The other thing as well, because there's systems that come straight out of a box that aren't configurable. I know our system is configurable, but how much do you think that can hindrance an agency if a system isn't configurable to, because no agency is the same?
Yeah, it's a lot of, it is a big outlay if you choose to utilise a software that is not implemented. It's a cost that you're probably not considering. So it's probably a shock when you do find out. The time, it is a lot of time, whereby if you had a system that was already fully integrated, costs have already been finalised, it's a no-brainer of a decision, really.
I think as well, if a system's configurable, as your business grows, you can configure that system to fit your business needs and adapt it.
As you grow, as you branch out into different areas of the recruitment industry, being able to modify a system to what you need it to be under a company that's willing to modify a system for you, it is great.
So one other thing I wanted feedback from you on was, have you worked with any agencies that are of a large size that have decided to move to a pay and bill system? And how did that have an effect on the agency? What was the output then from the agency following the transition?
So we've recently just partnered with a large business who have been trading for 35 plus years. They were in a position where they'd almost outgrown their payroll department, as they had a part-time payroll team. So they had to look at other means and other options. And they've made the decision to outsource the payroll and put the responsibility in the hands of an outsourcing company who knows legislations, knows how to process, and will undertake everything for them, and also assist them with expertise, guidance, education, to be able to still expand and grow, rather than feeling like they're at a halt within their business. Because no business wants to just stay static and at a standstill. So it was a big relief for them to be able to outsource their payroll to continue to grow their business.
I guess it was a relief, but also it was kind of relinquishing the control, which is a big decision, isn't it? And that's why it's so important, I personally think, for agencies to look at more than one system. Make sure it's not only just a system, but a partner for your business. We really want to be part of a business's journey. We don't just kind of give them the system and leave them to it, or do the pay and bill and leave them to it. We coach them as they grow, and if we see anything that we think would make life easier for them, or would make their processes more streamlined, or improve their business functions and operations, we will have those conversations with them. So I think that's another really important thing.
Definitely, we strive with that, and we fully support that approach in helping businesses, not just bringing them on and processing payroll and billing. It's a lot more in depth than payroll and billing. It's education. Everything changes every day.
It does, doesn't
industry.
It does. It keeps us on our toes, that's for sure. All right, well, I think that's time for us. So I'm going to wrap up there. But thanks so much for joining me today, Hannah. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This was number 3 in my series of webinars on recruitment back office. The next one, number 4, is going to be on recruitment funding. So that will hopefully be with you probably mid-November. So I look forward to seeing everyone then at our next webinar. If you have any questions regarding pay and bill, or anything to do with back office operations within your recruit business, please do reach out to myself or Hannah. We'd be happy to help. No obligation, consultation, conversation. And we look forward to speaking with you. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.